Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
Hi, Rob Brown. Whoops. Sorry about that. Hi, Rob Brown here with you on this beautiful, having a little bit of problem here. Beautiful Thursday, September 8th, college football season about to start. Dudley, a couple of weeks ago, you made a comment. It isn't week 0, it's week 1 because they're keeping score. Now, you and I, there's the Augustan calendar, the Roman calendar, the Caesar calendar. You and I are going on. This is week 3, Dudley. You declared it. So it was said, so it shall be done. Week 3 of college football season cranking up. Arkansas in week 2, their first game, though, 31-24 over Cincinnati. That was a great win for the Hogs. A lot of significance there. We're going to be with you as we are every Monday through Saturday for the next 2 hours, talking college football. Second section, Gary Harris, WVUA TV 23, Tide 100.9, joins us from Tuscaloosa, talking about the Alabama-Texas matchup. Top of the second hour, Mark Hamm, Rocky Top Tennessee Tailgate Report, checks in from Knoxville. They're getting ready for the Johnny Majors Classic up in Pittsburgh. And in section 4, Bo Carter out in Dallas, long time with the Big 12 office. We'll talk some Big 12 and SEC and some stuff about these new TV contracts. The SEC now may be pulling ahead of the Big 10 with the new deal we're hearing about. Should be interesting. Lots to talk about. Again, follow us on Twitter at sidelines_live. Dudley Dawson, hogville.net joins us. And Dudley, let's start off with your takeaways from Arkansas 31, Cincinnati 24 last weekend at Reynolds Razorback Stadium in Fayetteville. 75,000 plus on hand. Who owns college football? The fans do.
Absolutely. The big win for them, much better to start the season with a win instead of a loss. Cincinnati certainly put up a big fight. Yeah. Arkansas had a lot of mistakes that they think they'll be able to correct from week 1 to week 2, using that coach's cliche that you always get better from week 1 to week 2. But, saw a lot of good things as well. Cincinnati's still going to be a pretty good team. Obviously not as good as they were last year, but there wasn't very many people as good as they were last year. Still have a lot of talent, though.
Yeah, I mean, they had 9 players drafted. Alabama had 7 this year. Alabama probably have 12. But still, I thought the significance that from that win, I think it was the first time in 40-plus years that Arkansas was ranked and played a ranked opponent in their season opener and got the win. That's a big deal to do that. And Cincinnati dropped a lot, but they did make the college football playoffs last year. And a Luke Fickell team, I'm starting to call him Ohio State light.
Yeah, he's a great football coach. I think he's proven that. He's proven that he can acquire talent there. I don't know how long they're going to be able to keep him because he's so good. If he does stay there, then you've got to give Cincinnati a lot of credit. Yeah. But was really, impressed with how his team played. Now, his quarterback in the first half missed a few guys deep. That certainly helped Arkansas. Arkansas lost 2 of its best defensive backs, and they kind of took advantage of that. So that's going to be an issue going forward. But now you turn to South Carolina. Shane Beamer, one of the definitely coolest coaches in the league, as he's putting out his TikToks and videos and stuff. Turning them around from a 2-win team to a 7-win team last year. And, feel like they're a pretty good team this year. So I think it's going to be a really good situation. Good game here on Saturday at 11 a.m.
All right, question for us. I think everybody wants to know, Jalen Catlin missed about the second half of the last season. He is a great defensive back. He goes out Saturday. What's his status from here out?
Well, we've had the opportunity to see practice first 20 minutes on Monday and Tuesday. He was not out there. Neither was Miles Slusher, the other young man who got hurt. There are a lot of rumors going around. I don't traffic in rumors. They are. I would say that I'm confident they're not going to be out there this Saturday. Anything beyond that, I think, is just speculation. And obviously those are two great football players that Arkansas would love to have out there. But let's take a look at A&M and see if they're back by then. That would probably be the best thing I'd say.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people were watching him on the sidelines, and he was moving his arms around, and also that's a good sign. Again, I'm not a doctor.
That looked like a season-ending injury to me when you're doing that. But hey, I'm not a doctor. I did stay at the Indian Express, but I'm not a doctor.
Yeah, and it's amazing what a good shot of cortisone can do to make you more mobile and feel good.
Absolutely.
But, and I hope for his sake, because this kid is a great player, and I think, Jimmy and I have been talking a lot of football this week. We took off Monday for Labor Day, and we shouldn't have. I mean, I got a lot of people got on to me about taking off first. Not that I don't want to get up early. I'm up at 5:30 naturally to swim and whatever. But I tell you, the thing with Arkansas, you gotta love is their resilience, and the 20 pounds less of KJ Jefferson. He's a much more mobile quarterback. I don't think people they appreciate the strength that this guy has. He can do a lot, but 20 pounds lighter, he's going to be a better weapon this year.
Your head coach and your quarterback have lost 100 pounds since last season. Think about that.
Yeah.
One can still deliver the blow, though, when he's running the football. Big play. Had such a big play. 3rd and 9. Kind of wobbling there. He ran for 40 yards, broke a couple of tackles. A situation where, he's an excellent player. I think they would like for him to take less punishment or dish out less punishment, but that's kind of who he is. He wants to set the tone. He wants to run over people, and so they're going to live with that a little bit. And it certainly worked out last weekend.
Yeah, it really did. Jimmy, jump in here with Dudley Dawson of hogville.net, Fearless Fridays. There's a whole lot to him.
Yeah, I wanted to find out if the Hog fan base and the coaching staff is a little bit concerned when you talk about Catalan not being able to play against South Carolina because the injury may not be serious long term, but it's serious enough that he's missing the first SEC game of the season. And I'm, again, just wondering if that is a concern, because last year when he got injured, I mean, it was immediately felt in that Auburn game. They scored on a couple of big plays that I felt if Catalan had been in the game, they wouldn't have happened. So when you have a key player like that is kind of been getting banged up in recent in recent times, that's got to be a concern. And also, what did worry me a little bit about Jefferson, and I thought it also took place last year, is that he's a great runner, and whenever he runs, it usually results in big plays. But he seems to have a hard time avoiding those big hits. And late in the game last week, it just appeared that he was wincing quite a bit. He was noticeably sore. And I'm just wondering if, the coaching staff, obviously, they're trying to work with him and trying to find a way when he gets into open space and he knows he's going to take a shot, trying to avoid that big direct hit.
Yeah, a couple of things. I'll take the last question first. They tell him and they tell him and they tell him to get out of bounds, but he doesn't listen. And he's going to have to develop that mentality of not running over people or not taking chances, but he hadn't done it yet, so we'll see how it goes from here. As far as Catalan and Miles Slusher, we obviously asked the question at Monday's press conference. He coach speaked me and said, "Oh no, not worried at all." But that's not true. When it's your two best defensive backs, and I think I feel confident in saying that, and you're not out there, things are going to happen. We saw that happen in the second half. As I said earlier, Cincinnati, if they had a little bit better passing attack, would have scored probably 2 or 3 more touchdowns. And that would have been a game that might have slipped away from Arkansas, depending on how it ended up. So, regardless of what the coach says, and he's a great dude and all that, but yes, he's concerned. He just doesn't want to show it outwardly and doesn't want to show it in the press. But without a doubt, I mean, you've got some guys, Latavius Brennan, who played at Georgia, started 11 games, but, obviously got beat out there toward the end for the national champion. You've got Dwight McLaughlin, who had a big pick, obviously, and returned at 51 yards to set up the first score, but also got beat a couple of times. Ladarius Bishop, a young man who played pretty well last year at quarterback, got beat a couple of times. Hudson Clark, who is, it seems like every fan base picks a kid out to rag on, once they give up a pass. He's that guy, but he played pretty well. Yeah, they're beat up back there. There's no way that you can be confident going into the thing this weekend thinking that everything's going to be okay. You just hope that they will stick with their man. And I do think this, they played a lot of man-to-man last week, and that's something that they want to do, or that they wanted to do when they had their full complement of defensive backs. I think we'll see more zone this week.
Dudley, folks, we're talking about Arkansas, and now we need to look ahead to this matchup. And again, this is the ECS House Industries Razorback Report, and Chad House wants to know his scouting report. He was asking, what about South Carolina? Spencer Rattler is going to be on the second game. He transferred from Oklahoma. Everybody knows his story. Had a couple of picks last week in the game. What does Arkansas need to do to rattle, no pun intended, to rattle him and keep him from getting in any kind of rhythm? Because he's a heck of an athlete, heck of a competitor and a quarterback and all like that. But he looks to me like when things aren't going his way, he, as my wife says to the little kids, he puts on a pout face and spreads the dreary wearies all over the place. That's just his MO. If I'm Arkansas, I'm going to get under his skin as fast as I can. How do you think they can do it?
Yeah, I'm going to try to say this the right way. If you leave one team after you get beat out for quarterback, it's going to take a while, I think, for your new team to think of you as that leader.
Yeah,
now, he's got the TikToks, he's got all the social media, all that. I think he has the quality to be a really good quarterback, and he actually wanted to be a Razorback back in the day, but it didn't work out. Not when he made the signing and all that, but he was a Razorback fan growing up. What I will say is, I hear everybody say he does so good on the run. He's such a good passer on the run. Nobody is a better passer on the run than they are in the pocket without any pressure. So obviously the thing they have to do is get to him. They were able to do that a little bit last week. Obviously, Jordan Dominique, the defensive tackle or defensive end that transferred from Georgia Tech, had a big strip sack and fumble. Landon Jackson had a sack. Terry Hampton, the Arkansas State transfer, had a really good game. And those were your three backups. Those are not even your starters. So they feel really good about the depth there all of a sudden. You have got to put pressure on Spencer Rattler. I think that we have seen in the games that he has played in the last 2 years, not necessarily the first year, but in the last 2 years, that if you get in his head, he'll mess up.
Yeah. And I'm with you. You leave one team to go to another one, it's going to take some time for them to trust you. Shane Beamer knows him, had a relationship with him at Oklahoma. But I look at this guy, and I don't dislike him personally. It's just the way he plays. And I think Arkansas, their best chance is to really get in there and get in his head. If you can take away any confidence, any opportunities he has for early success, that bodes well for the Razorbacks.
Yeah, I don't dislike him either, but get off social media and get under center.
Yeah, well, and my gripe with him, and Jimmy remembers this last summer, he was in Philadelphia for a memorabilia conference doing $150 autographs. He should have been back in Norman with his Sooner teammates doing captain's practices, captain's workouts and all. And you saw, look, how do you respond when you get punched in the face? That says everything about you. And he's going to get punched in the face Saturday at Reynolds Razorback Stadium. There'll be 75, 80,000 people up there. But that game, it's the 11 o'clock game. The one thing about the 11 o'clock a.m. game, I call it the timeout game. I remember when raising kids, I used to just sit on the wall, but it is always to the advantage for the visiting team if they can get out and jump on top of you early by a couple of touchdowns, because the crowd typically gets there late. They don't know whether to eat breakfast or lunch. They hadn't had enough to drink yet. Just kind of grouchy, and so you can alter the chemistry real fast. And we're going to take a break here in about a minute, but that right there is what Arkansas needs to be ready for. And that Sam Pittman probably has had those guys going to bed earlier at night all week, getting them ready for the 11 a.m. kickoff, Dudley.
5 SEC games at 11 a.m. this week. It used to be the Jefferson Pilot. They don't care about us now. It's not that anymore. It's a national game.
Yes. Well, it's timeout, and that's it. But Dudley, real quick, the Arkansas crowd, double thumbs up. They were there early. They stayed. And again, stay the full 60, fans. Stay the full 60. Don't leave early. If you want to call these guys your family, how would your kids feel if they saw you walking out at the end of the third quarter because things weren't going well? Remember that. Stay the full 60. Dudley, you with me on that? Or do you like to leave?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that's like walking out of a piano recital.
Ooh, man. Or a ballet performance or an orchestral performance. And, I agree with you, but that's the fans. And again, I think everybody needs to go back and look at that Seinfeld episode about everybody talks about when are we going? When are we going? We get there. As soon as we get there, when are we leaving? Fans, enjoy the ride. We're going to be right back with more on the ECS House Industries Razorback Report, brought to us by Chad House and his great company and great employees in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, after this.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
Here with you, Rob Brown, along with Dudley, Dawson, and Jimmy Hodge. And hello to farmers out there getting an early start. Folks like Donnie Raines over in Parkin and Heth, Brenner Farms, cutting rice and cutting the corn right now, using some of that House Industries agricultural equipment. And you know what else? Thompson Westerberg. I don't know what that door is in the background or whatever, but Thompson Westerberg up in New York, been up since 4:15 this morning. His team at E&Y, one of the big four accounting firms. Jimmy, Dudley, we're all old enough to remember when there was the Big Eight, the Big Four.
Love it. I went to school at Newport, but I grew up on a farm in Balch, Arkansas. I learned that getting up early paid off. But now that I'm 59, I sleep in a little bit sometimes.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, Donnie Raines and Robert Hill and all these Hill Farms over there, they listen to the show in their combines. It ain't like, what our dads and grandfathers, I didn't grow up on a farm, but I'm from Memphis, which is the largest small town in America, but they listen. They've got stereo systems in there.
Oh, yeah.
They're listening right now to the show. So all of you out there.
My guess is first mention of Balch, Arkansas ever on your show.
Balch, Arkansas. Well, listen, my grandparents are from Helena, and in Phillips County, there's a town called Marvel. And right there by Shadden's Barbecue Shack, when I went in there one time and I said, my goodness, there's a lot of pictures of Levon Helm here. Remember him, the lead singer of the band?
Yes.
And the woman
with his brother, actually.
Well, the woman looked at me
Beamer.
that owned the barbecue shack over there in Marvel and said, well, by God, he's born and raised right yonder over there in Turkey Scratch. Now that's the first mention on this show is Turkey Scratch, Arkansas. Man, I tell you what, Arkansas. Yeah, the natural state. But all of our listeners, again, Thompson Westerberg, people up on his team in New York that listen to Sidelines.live, thank you, as Gomer says. But Dudley, let's get back into this. And Jimmy, the Razorback matchup with South Carolina, kind of start breaking this thing down. And Dudley, go ahead. And then Jimmy, jump in after Dudley makes some comments on this because I'm interested in this matchup like everybody else is.
For all the success that Arkansas has had over the last couple of years under Coach Pittman, one area that has been at fault at times is an area that Shane Beamer, his dad, their football teams have excelled in is special teams. Obviously, 21 points last week on special teams. Yep. They are shoring up everything they can here to try to keep that from happening this week. Two block punch for touchdowns, fake field goal. They're going to pull out everything, and he's not afraid to risk things a little bit. Beamer, I'm talking about it, and obviously that's a big key because while they have certainly gotten better in the big scheme of things in special teams with Scott Fountain over the last 2 years. When you make a mistake, it lingers and people still remember those things. So I'm sure that the crowd going in there, just get the punt off.
Yeah. Look, Beamer ball is fun. I mean, I told you my brother-in-law played football for Virginia Tech and lives up in Roanoke. And that last weekend was Shane Beamer. He's got a contagious, enthusiastic personality. All these games matter. Jimmy Hodge, jump back in here with us. Dudley Dawson, hogville.net is on with us. Folks, if you are a Razorback or love football and want to read and follow someone who lives it and breathes it and is just a damn good man, follow him on hogville.net.
Well, one thing I will say, special teams was not a strength for Cincinnati last week. They missed 2 field goals, and when you throw in that a 50-yard interception that put Arkansas at the doorstep for the touchdown late in the first half. That was just something they couldn't overcome. And of course, special teams have really come to the limelight when you add in the performance of LSU's a field goal unit and then their inability to catch punts. Ironically, on both of those fumble punts, I don't think Florida State scored on either one, but yeah, you got to really shore things up there. But what I wanted to know, and I'm guessing Dudley would agree, when you consider the fact that Rattler was benched in both of the last 2 Red River shootout games against Texas, you've got to think that Barry Odom, in only his second game at Arkansas with this particular team, with a lot of different personnel, that they're going to put in some stuff this week that they think can confuse Rattler, because we've seen in the past that he does get unnerved a little bit when things don't go well. And I've got to think if he's looking at some alignments he hasn't seen before, that could result in some turnovers. And I've got to imagine that Barry is looking forward to this opportunity on Saturday.
He's nuclear loose, man. All the talent in the world, but if you get him rattled, as you said, no pun intended, I think it leads to his downfall. I mean, that's what happened at Oklahoma, riding high, Heisman Trophy candidate. Something goes wrong in one game, and suddenly he just falls off the planet. I will give Oklahoma credit. They keep recruiting quarterbacks, and they keep leaving there and going to other places, and they keep replacing them with good quarterbacks. But, yeah, I think that's the big thing. Again, I think he has all the talent in the world. If you had Kevin Costner whispering to him, I think that he would maybe handle things a little bit better. Maybe him and Shane Beamer will work out. He may come in here and have a fantastic game this weekend. Wouldn't doubt it because he has the talent. But you're right, Barry Odom, even though I think they're going to play more zone this weekend instead of man-to-man, is going to do some things, especially because he was impressed with what he had in the rotation on the defensive line. Again, the 3 guys that I spoke of earlier that made big plays were reserves. So I feel like, that they're going to do some things to get inside his head. All the talent in the world, I think if you get in that kid's head, it's not going to end well for him.
Yeah, and we talk about this a lot. A lot of these kids that are so athletically gifted, they were always bigger, stronger, and faster than everybody growing up.
What was that like?
They get into a fight, and they don't know how to respond to being pushed. They've always won, but they've never been pushed. I tell you who I think would be a great personality as a coach or as a quarterback to have a chance to win in Fayetteville would be our man Rip from Yellowstone. How about Rip? You're going to need it because, folks, that crowd at Arkansas, they're really, really believing now. They're not hoping they're going to win. Like I told Buddy Martin, GatorbaitMedia.com this week, Florida fans are going to the game the other night knowing they're going to win. Arkansas fans, it's that traumatic Chad Morris years. I mean, that takes a lot out of you. But I get the sense this game, and you talk about special teams, that's a third of every game. I remember Paul Davis saying at Auburn, it takes special teams to make special plays on special teams. And so that's a third of every game. And Virginia Tech made a living. No, why don't other schools embrace that? I guess they don't want to spend the time in practice, but it's to their detriment, Dudley.
There were people walking out of the stadium last week and have been on radio shows this week. We only won by 7. It was not that great a win. And people like me have reminded them, you had 2 and 3 wins for the longest time. You just beat a team, even though it lost some people that was in the college football playoffs. Calm down.
Yeah.
But that's what happens when you get expectations.
Well, and the other thing is that don't ever fail to appreciate a win. Everybody's caught up. I think in the SEC, guys, there are a lot of fan bases that just think they're it's just a waste of time. We're not Alabama, we're not Georgia. Look, as talented as Alabama was last year, they went to the wire with LSU. Auburn, Tank Bigsby stays in bounds. That game's over. Okay. See the fine line that you walk? That's what Nick Saban has to tell his team every day. He goes, don't get caught up in the rat poison.
That's it.
You don't just show up and go, boo, and get a win. You got to play a full 60. And the fans, I think fans own college football. And you can make it as good or as miserable as you want to. But if you're reacting on every play and freaking out, the best way to get over that is pick out a jersey number of somebody on the field on your team and pretend you're that player. Would you want to be in the huddle, Jimmy or Dudley, with someone who's cussing and screaming and saying every bad thing possible? No. Think about yourself. If you're on that, then it'll calm you down, as will a good shot of Jack Daniels or something. But still, it'll calm you down if you do that, guys.
Well, Tom Brady can get away with that type of stuff, but
apparently not with his wife.
Do it. Yeah, he's got a few accomplishments under his belt, so I think a lot of guys in the huddle will take heed to that.
Yes.
But I really do think this is the most a fascinating aspect of this matchup is how Rattler is going to handle a hostile environment with a very seasoned, wily defensive coordinator that is going to give him some new looks in only his second game at a new program with a new coaching staff. And again, it's really interesting to see how he's going to react. I think the Hogs are in a position that they think they can probably force an early turnover. And if they are, that can allow them to get control of the game early and cause South Carolina to play from behind and feel like, that's going to be a big obstacle to overcome. And we all realize, too, that so much of this game is mental. And I'm sure that Arkansas would like, to turn it into that kind of game also.
Yeah, and it's hard to get people to understand. Fans are great, but they don't understand sometimes that in the first game, you didn't show everything on offense and defense, and you didn't do that for a reason. Desmond Ridder had been back there for Cincinnati, Arkansas would have done some different things. They did not think they needed to unload everything against the two quarterbacks, Ben Bryant and his backup that Cincinnati had. There'll be more stunts, be more tricks, be more things unleashed this week than there was last week. And I think that's, I think people really need to get into that. I know you saw what you saw on film. I know you saw some defensive backs get beat. I know you saw a quarterback scramble a little bit. But look at the big scheme of things. There's going to be more out there. Not saying Arkansas is going to win a football game, but I'm saying they're going to look different defensively this week, and they're going to look different offensively this week. Because one thing we haven't talked about, Dominic Johnson, who was as good a back as they had last year, scored a team-high 7 touchdowns. It appears he's going to play. He's shed his green non-contact jersey. He's running and doing everything he needs to do. It basically is now down to a decision. Do you want to go? And I think he's going to answer that question. Yes.
Yeah. Hey, Dudley, look, great report. We've run out of time. This is the ECS House Industries Razorback Report. Dudley Dawson, tell them how they can follow you, and look forward to hearing from you again next week. Great insight as always. The pride of Bulach, Arkansas. Balch.
B-A-L-C-H.
Look.
Nickname was the Balch Bullet back in the day. I'm not so fast, but worked for hogville.net, fearlessfriday.com. Proud former Newport Greyhound. Shout out to Northeast Arkansas, baby.
Hey, and I'll be going through Levesque on the way back to parking after the show. We're in Wynn. Hey, thanks so much.
If you go through Wiener or Waldenburg, tell them hey for me, okay?
Will do. I'll do it. That is the German quad. Wiener, Waldenburg, Kaiser, and Harrisburg right there. 49 and 14. I know it well. Take care. Now we're going to switch gears, head down to Tuscaloosa. Gary Harris, Channel 23 WVUA, Tide 100.9, does a great daily show right after he gets off from us, goes on there 9 to 11. College football got a big one out in Texas this weekend, Gary. A lot of talk, matchups and all. What matters is how do you match up on game day? Let's talk.
Hey, Rob. Good morning, Jimmy. Yeah, I think this is a big game for Alabama. Coach Saban said yesterday following practice, he pulled out a Coach Bryant quote that you'll never know how much a horse can pull until you hitch him to a heavy load. And I think Coach Saban feels like after last week, good performance for Alabama in that 55-0 opening victory over Utah State, that Alabama's going to get tested on Saturday out in Austin, that 11 a.m. kick. And, Texas is a talented team. There's no doubt about it. And I think that I said this on my show yesterday, that if Texas isn't a good team, and that's the thing about these early season games, everybody always talks about looking back on a season. Well, they didn't, so-and-so wasn't any good, but it's about when you play them, Rob and Jimmy. And if Texas isn't a good team, they don't know it yet. They may turn out to be a 7-5 team. Could be, but they don't know that yet. All they know is they won 55-10 or 52-10 over Monroe last week with Terry Bowden. And this is the second game of the year. It's an opportunity for them on the national stage to make a statement. And so they're going to be ready to play. They've got a lot to play for. And for Alabama, there's no doubt in my mind, clearly they're a better football team than Texas. If Alabama plays well, they're going to win the game. But when Alabama loses a game, it's a combination of things usually. That is that Alabama doesn't play its best, and the team that they play that day plays really well. You might even say plays over their head. You might have an incredible performance by quarterback like a Steven Garcia or a Zach Calzada. A game maybe that they play that, they never played that well before or since. But on that day, they were very good. And if Quinn Ewers is very, very good tomorrow, and Texas with those running backs can control the football, they can make some plays in the passing game and the kicking game and defensively just not get too gutted. I know it's their hope that they can be around in this thing in the second half and make it competitive. So it's a big game. And the reason I say that is I hear so much with Alabama, well, they should win. They got the most talent. They got the best players, and that's simplified to the point where it almost just becomes ridiculous.
Yeah.
If that's all you think that there is to it, then that's, then you don't know football. And Texas has got good players. Maybe not as many good players as Alabama, but it's not just about showing up and who has the best players. You know, if the best team won every game, it'd be no fun. So Texas is capable on a particular day, like you said. It's about how you match up on that day. On a particular day, I think Texas has good enough players to give Alabama some trouble. So it's a big game, and I want to continue to stress that Alabama's allowed to play big games too, other than a national championship or playoff. Sometimes again, I think the expectation is that everybody that Alabama plays, it's just it's not a big game because they're so much better and they're a 20-point favorite and all that. But you don't start the game 20-0. You start it 0-0. And I think when people see Coach Saban and they say, oh, he's ranting or he's doing whatever, I think he's just trying to remind people that you got to go out and earn it.
Yeah.
You don't just show up and get off the bus and the other team wave a white flag.
Gary, yeah, you're right. Hold those thoughts because we're going to take a quick break. You're right. That's why they play the game. And he's right to say what he says. More after this.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Brown back here with you. Gary Harris, you were making great points. And Nick Saban does get criticized sometimes. Why is he saying all this stuff about rat poison and all? Because he's the coach and he's there every day. And you know what 18 to 22-year-olds can do. They can get distracted. And it is, I think the smartest thing you've said on this show in a long time. You say a lot of smart things, Gary, but that is, if Texas is a bad team, they don't know it yet. They won 52-10 over La Monroe last week. So it's about how you mentally approach the game. And you never know when you've got a superstar on offense like Bryce Young and defense like Will Anderson. We've all grown up playing sports. Remember, guys, when you were playing and you had that look, I had a guy on my 6th grade basketball team, and he was about 6'4". He looked like a 25-year-old man. And then there was me on there, and I was pretty good, but we had a bunch of other guys that were pretty small. And we would beat teams sometimes 84-16 in 6th grade basketball. This guy could dunk. He was a freak. I think he was 20. But when he wasn't there, all of a sudden everybody was like, oh, my God, what are we going to do? Well, he got strep throat one time. And we won, but we won 32-27. Point being, you can get too comfortable thinking, well, someone else is going to do it. It's like when I'm in the duck blind and there's 5 of us. Ducks come in and I'm with the Johnson brothers or, Boyd or someone like that. And you think, oh, they've got it or he's got it. And then nobody hits it. Gary, you're onto something. You're very, very perceptive.
Well, hindsight's 20/20. And again, when I look at Alabama's schedule every year, it's amazing if they get to be, 12-0 or 11-0 or whatever it is at that point in the year, people will look back and say, well, they're the schedule was overrated. So-and-so turned out to, but again, it's about when you play them. And there's been a lot of games that, looking back on a season, people gave Alabama no credit for winning because that team turned out to be 6-6. So they turned out to be 7-5. But when you played them, it was a huge game.
Yep.
Game day was there. It was national TV. People were talking about you could lose this game if you don't play well. And then, if Alabama goes out and hangs one on them, let's say, these neutral side openers that they played and they win at 45-10, then people look back and say, well, that game was an easy game. But I remember when they played USC, out in Dallas and out in Arlington at the AT&T Stadium. That was a big game at the time. Alabama didn't know what the quarterback situation was. And they wound up bringing Jalen Hurts in off the bench as a true freshman, and they wound up winning. I think scored 52 points in that game. And people would say, "Well, that wasn't a tough game," but at the time, it was a huge game. USC came in there with the expectation that they could win the game, and I think that's the same thing for Texas on Saturday in Austin. I think they're coming in with the expectation that they can win this game. All of the hype and all of the pomp and circumstances is surrounding this game. And again, if later on in the year, Texas is turns out to be 7-5 or 8-4, we'll probably say, well, and I'm sure if they get pounded Saturday, people will say, see, it's the same old Texas. But that's not the case going into the game. And again, you're right, Rob. For Coach Saban, he doesn't have the luxury of just, being casual about it. Oh, Alabama's so much better and all that. He understands how this game is played and what goes into winning. And he cannot relax. And again, 20-point favorite, none of that matters for the guys on the field. It's not 20-0 when you start. It's 0-0. And I think, listening to him yesterday, he's dialed in as he always is.
Yeah.
But he understands, the situation that Alabama's going into. And Alabama's been in these situations a lot. More times than not, they've come out on top. But there have been those occasions, whether it's Columbia, South Carolina in 2010 or last year in College Station, or 2017 in Auburn, or 2013 in Auburn, whenever it may be. There have been times on the road where they've had really, really good football teams that did not win because they played a good team at their place with an incredible environment, and that team rose up and beat them. And it's happened before, and it could happen again. So I think that's the approach he's taking. And again, I guess it's a compliment to Alabama when so many people that know football are just so casual in their comments. Oh, it's going to be a blowout. It's not even going to be a game and all that kind of stuff. And I've always said, Rob and Jimmy, I'm not a coach, but I think I kind of think like a coach. Every time every opponent worries me because I understand that it starts 0-0. And you've got to go out and you've got to win the game, and you've got to respect your opponent. And I certainly think Alabama respects this Texas team because this Texas team has good football players.
And Steve Sarkisian has a history with Nick Saban. He was at Alabama, won a national championship there as an offensive coordinator in 2020. And that's exactly it. And for fans, I do think Alabama's going to win the game, but I also see and to win a game as a coach and a staff, you got to look at every possible scenario that could get you beat, and then you backtrack from there. It's like producing a 30-minute newscast, Gary. You know what I'm talking about? Producers walking around the newsroom with a clipboard, back timing from 6:30 to 6 o'clock. This package, we're going to give you a minute, 40 seconds. We got to fill this or that. You know what I'm talking about. That's how they approach I'm not a coach either. Watch it. I analyze it. I love to break it down, but you got to play a full 60. And we all know 18 to 22-year-olds, Bryce Young could get a quarterback, a text from his girlfriend 5 minutes before kickoff. She don't want to go out anymore. You don't ever know. That's why you got to keep those guys dialed in and focused. It's a sniper-spotter relationship, coach and player. They got to be on the same team to take the target, and that target is Texas for Alabama. Jimmy?
Yeah. Well, I can't get out of my mind that this is Quinn Ewer's second start as a Power 5 conference quarterback, and you can bet that Alabama didn't show very much defensively as far as their looks and alignments go against Utah State. And I think they've got some wrinkles in store for him. And I don't know, it just seemed to me, and it started, I thought, at the SEC media days in Saban's address when, he just gave that impression, just the way he spoke, that we just don't plan on messing around. We're not coming out there and letting teams hang around for 2 or 3 quarters. We're going to go out there and take control of this game. And I have a feeling this is what's going to happen. I think if you're Texas with 2, I believe, freshman starters in the offensive line, if they're not freshmen, they're first-time starters. It'll be their second start at this level. That you better be aware where Will Anderson is at all times on every play. And as you mentioned, Alabama's got numerous players. Dallas Turner, Jordan Battle, guys that are tremendous players that can, really make your mistakes stand out if you're not prepared for what you're going to see in Alabama's defense. And so I just think Alabama's just going to be laser focused, and they're going to take control from the start. But it will be an 11 o'clock game, and I checked the weather forecast. The heat index at kickoff is going to be around 97. By noon, it's going to be at 100, and then it's going to get a degree or two hotter each hour. So, you better be ready for that. So it's going to be, like I said, an electric atmosphere. But, man, I just have this feeling Alabama's just going to go out there and take care of business. There just seems to be a different look about them just down on the field. I know that it was Utah State last week, but I'm telling you what, this is a team I think that just feels like it's on a mission. They came so close last year, and they, didn't have all their key players for the championship game, and they just want to make amends and I think settle some scores this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're going to win the game. I got it 45-17, so I want to be clear on that. I'm not saying I don't think Alabama's going to win the game. I'm just saying respect the opponent, and I get a sense that there's so many people in this day and age that don't respect the opponent. And I get what you're saying about Quinn Ewers, but also understand who he is. And, he's number one quarterback in the country. He's a 5-star talent. There's a lot of guys that have to start their first and second games. Alabama's had a lot of freshman starters, many more than probably people realize when they go look back and look through, Nick Saban's history here. Bryce Young was a first-time starter last year. I'd rather have a guy making a second start that has uber talent like Quinn Ewers than a guy that's a fifth-year senior that can't play. So that's my point. Texas has talented football players. Tom Herman recruited. And this is not a situation where Alabama's going to be on the field with a team that is just going to be overwhelmed in terms of talent, like it is a lot of cases. They've got good football players. They've got highly recruited players. You're right, Jimmy. They've got 2 freshman starters in the offensive line. Alabama started freshman players in the offensive line before. Evan Neal, one of them. So my point is you'd rather start talented freshmen than you would start players that aren't very talented and have experience, I think, at this level. So I think Alabama's clearly a better team. I think they're going to win the game. But this point that a lot of people are making that Texas is Utah State, that's not the case. And my point is that they've got enough talent. That running back room they've got, it rivals what Alabama's got or anybody else has got. I mean, they've got great running backs. They've got playmakers at receiver. Now, defensively, I think they're going to have some issues. I mean, I do. I think, trying to slow down Bryce Young, who I think clearly is the best quarterback in the country. I have nothing against C.J. Stroud or anybody else, but I'm having a hard time figuring out how you win the Heisman one year, you come back for your second year as a starter, and you're not picked to win the Heisman again. I mean, I think he's the best quarterback in the country. So I think Texas is going to have a hard time on defense, slowing down this Alabama attack. And I think over the course of 4 quarters, certainly Alabama's defense is going to get its opportunities to make plays. So I've got it a one-sided game. At the end of the day, I've got it 45-17, which is a pretty prominent victory for the Crimson Tide. But I just want to, come on this program, and I've been doing it on my program. I just hear so many people on the radio and on television just so casually talk about, it's going to be a blowout. Like Texas isn't even going to show up. Like they're just going to wave a white flag. That's not going to be the case. Jimmy and Rob, they're going to come to play.
Yeah.
Steve Sarkisian's a big time coach. That's a big time program. They've got a lot of history and tradition. If you look through the history of the series, they've dominated Alabama throughout the years. And I understand that doesn't matter on Saturday, but they're going to come in with a mindset that they can compete. And that's the point that I'm trying to make. And I've listened and watched a lot of people on television and listened to them on the radio and podcast this week, just like, this will be over at halftime. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But I've got respect for Texas and the program that Steve Sarkisian is building and the recruiting that has been done there under Tom Herman and now under Sark. So that's my point, is that Texas is a proud program. This is an opportunity for them on the national stage with all eyes on that game at 11 o'clock in the morning, and they don't want to be embarrassed. So they're planning and preparing just like Alabama is to play the best game that they can play. And if they play the best game that they can play, they might have an opportunity to keep this game interesting into the second half.
Gary.
Well, I agree that a lot of these pundits last week were saying the same thing about Ohio State, Notre Dame. They thought Ohio State was just going to run them out of the stadium. And, man, that was a tightly contested game for at least 3.5 quarters. So, yeah, you're right. I agree. Texas is going to be really well prepared to play this game. But my point about Ewers is that unlike Bryce Young, he didn't have a full year in the Texas system last year to learn how things were done. And, Bryce was able to learn a lot of things behind Matt Jones. And, he had a full spring, of course, in the system. And I think he was just ready to go from the beginning. And also when you talk about the Stephen Garcia and Zach Calzada performances against Alabama, those were both near the mid-season mark where they had 4 or 5 games to get accustomed to this level of football. And with game 2, I think that's going to be a tough adjustment. But yeah, I firmly believe that Saban and his staff are going to have these players really ready to play this game, because I think even though younger players don't follow the history of college football, they know the history of Texas, and they know this is a big game, and they're going to know when they walk into the stadium that this is a big game.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I do think they've had a good week of preparation. I do think they'll be dialed in. I agree with what you said there, Jimmy, and I think that's what it's going to take. Again, I think that Alabama, talented as they may be, they have to put the work in like everybody else. And you make a great point. They need to be dialed in and they need to be ready to play. And if they are, they're going to win the football game, because they're better than Texas. We understand that. That's not, that's not up for debate. My point was that Alabama doesn't win every game. And, the best team doesn't always win. That's what makes it interesting. That's what makes it college football. So, I guess I'm saying at the end of the day that Texas has a puncher's chance in the game if some things were to go their way. And again, you never know what's going to happen during the course of a game. One injury in a game can change everything in a heartbeat. So my point is that it's a big game for Alabama too. And I just kind of have not really got that feeling from, watching people on television and listening to people this week that, have just kind of poo-pooed it for Alabama. And I think for Alabama, and I think that's why Saban is laser focused as he is. I think you said it, Jimmy. He wants his players to understand it's a big game for Alabama too. It's not just a big game for Texas. It's not just an opportunity for Texas to make a statement on the national stage. It's an opportunity for Alabama to make a statement as well. And you're right, Jimmy. They do that by going out there on that field on Saturday and taking care of business. But showing up and getting off the bus and going into the locker room and putting on your pads and running out there on the field doesn't do it. You've got to go play. And that is I guess that's my point. I'm actually paying Alabama a compliment in that when Alabama beats these teams, a lot of times they don't get any credit for it. And this is a big game tomorrow. That's my point. And if Alabama wins it 45-17, like I've predicted it, or it turns out to be a one-sided game, I just think Alabama will deserve some credit for going out to Austin this early in the year in that heat, in a big game environment, and picking up that victory. And I'm not sure they'll get it, Rob and Jimmy. If they win the game, I think people will just say, oh, well, Texas isn't any good. Yeah. And I think that's unfair.
Yeah, I do too. And I'll tell you something you said about why Bryce Young coming back isn't the prohibitive favorite for the Heisman. I'll tell you why. There's so much seething anger and animosity and jealousy from the Big Ten, not just Ohio State, but from the Big Ten and the Eastern media establishment. They would, do anything. They would pull for Ohio State. So Bryce Young would not get the Heisman. C.J. Stroud, he's a good quarterback. He's not Bryce Young. And I totally agree with you. I get so tired of these losers that are like, well, you beat that team. They weren't any good. Well, at the time, like you said, game day's there. It's a big deal. It's the moment that you play the game. And I'm saying this because I'm objective. I'm on the show, and I'm harder on Auburn than I am any other school because that's my alma mater. But I'm telling you, you're a loser if all you do is sit on your rear end at a game and wait to hear, if you're an Auburn fan, for Alabama to be trailing, or Georgia to hear Georgia Tech trailing, or Tennessee to hear, Alabama or Auburn trailing. You need to worry about your own school. And you're right. It's a big game for Alabama too. And that is the hardest challenge for Nick Saban and the coaches. I mean, that's how it is. Gary, I know you got to go. If you can, we'll put your word out. You're tied 100.9. Your show comes up right now, but Great stuff as always. Be right back.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
Jimmy, I really like those comments by Gary Harris and both of y'all talking about this. It's a big game to Alabama, too. And the national media is making it like it's only a big deal to Texas. Again, when Alabama beat Texas back in 2009 in the Rose Bowl, I don't think Coach Bryant ever beat Texas. I mean, that's a big deal if you're a longtime Alabama fan to get a victory over the Longhorns. I think you're right. You're going to see Alabama coming into this game laser focused. And you know, you kind of made a statement that it was diametrically opposing in my opinion. You said these young kids don't know the history of college football, but they know the history of Texas. That's a statement. It's interesting that you said that. You can't help but know the history of Texas. It's in your face all the time. Alabama has a number of players from the state of Texas. So all that being said, Jimmy, I do think Texas is going to get Alabama's full 60 attention. And this is a super talented team. But again, we remember last year, Alabama had plenty of struggles. I mean, LSU and Auburn, who would have thought? And both of those games, I mean, they went down to the wire. There are no gimmies in college football at this level. And give Alabama credit, 55-0 over Utah State. I mean, Blake Anderson led them in his first year to an 11-3 record. And that's not the SEC. We all know that. Okay, Captain Obvious. But to win 55-0, and it looks like Alabama took their foot off the gas midway through the third quarter. How ugly could that thing have gotten? I mean,
yeah, well, Saban, you know, he's got a knack of kind of calling the dogs off when the outcome's obviously been settled, and tries to get some of the younger players some game experience. But I think another factor that nobody's really talked about much there, Alabama's going to be facing a number of former teammates that are wearing Texas gear on Saturday, and I think they're going to have kind of a secret goal to go out there and just remind those guys what program they left, and just to say, hey, we're pretty good. Don't want you to forget about us. And I think again, the atmosphere is going to be tremendous, especially at the start of the game. And we'll see if Texas has some wrinkles of their own to try to make the game competitive, for as long as they can. But it's a tremendous matchup. But it should also be mentioned that Alabama and Texas have only played 6 or 7 times over their entire football history.
Yeah,
so, and all the Texas wins have been like 21-17, 10-7, a long time ago. So again, that goes a long way. I mean, Michigan won like 8 national championships between 1905 and 1919, but not so many since.
Since 1948, they have half of one, Jimmy. So
yeah,
you're right.
They won half of one since Bernie Osterhoos won one in 1948, I believe, for the Wolverines. Yeah,
didn't they name a toaster after him or something?
Yeah. Yeah, but it really is interesting though when you just hear those two names,
Yeah.
Alabama and Texas, and they're going to be occupying the same field on Saturday. It gets people's attention, and it's just a preview of what some of these future SEC matchups are going to be when you have Texas and Oklahoma playing every team in the SEC at least twice every 4 years.
Yeah, it is. It is big. Hey, we got Mark Hamm, Rocky Top Tennessee Tailgate Report. High on Rocky Top. Drank some corn squeezins this morning up in Knoxville. Mark, we have been having a lot of fun talking about this Alabama-Texas matchup. Tennessee has a big one, and I don't know what's going on. Who's in charge of the ticket office? The world's oldest man, Tim Conway from the old Carol Burnett show, was in charge of getting Tennessee tickets, but they only gave them enough, I think, for the band, and the tickets they offered Tennessee were so bad, Tennessee sent them back. So I'm sure there'll be some orange up there in Pittsburgh in the stadium Saturday, but they called the Johnny Majors Classic. That one last year was like 48-45. But the thing that worries me about Pitt is Pat Narduzzi, great defensive coach, the head coach at Pitt, had a great career before that at Michigan State. They're coming into this game, man. They've led the nation the last 3 years in quarterback sacks. But I like Tennessee because they got Hendon Hooker, a legitimately dual threat quarterback. But let's talk about this matchup. And I don't know if you ever found out, is Smokey driving? Is he flying? Does he go with the team? What will they do? But I know he'll be there in Knoxville. But let's talk some Big Orange.
Yeah, no doubt. I think he has his own private jet. And
okay,
he's taken up, by the Haslams or someone. I think takes him up to every game. But
there we go.
I think they have a fleet, so I think he goes on his own. He's got his own swag going on. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting game. And last year they came in and they beat us. We probably had a chance to win that game if maybe we were starting a different quarterback, but it was early in the season, and they're a good team. They lost their quarterback and they lost their best wide receiver. So from that standpoint, I think there's a lot of changes, but they do have a new guy that came in, obviously from USC, that is kind of a stud. So I think it's going to be interesting. I think I like our chances. I think it's one of those key games that everyone keeps speaking about, in ball land. If we can get through that game, and then we can get through Akron, then we're moving into, more of an early undefeated season, I guess. It makes the matchups a little different, but it's one of those people on the fence, but it's one that, everyone's saying we really need to win this one, because we got some tough ones, coming up with Georgia, Alabama, and Florida.
Yeah. And there are no easy games. And you're right. You go from Ball State on Thursday night, a week ago, Pitt, defending ACC champion, Kenny Pickett is gone. He was first round pick, hometown with the Steelers. I'm sure he likes hanging out in the warehouse district, going to Permane Brothers and getting those big sandwiches that have mustard, the great sauce, all the meat, and French fries on a bun. You can't beat a Permane Brothers sandwich. But I think about Keaton Slovis coming in from Southern Cal. We got to see him last week. We talked about it a lot, playing for Pitt against West Virginia in the backyard brawl. I like Hendon Hooker in this game. I think he gives Tennessee a lot of chances, whereas a lesser quarterback leading Tennessee into this game, I think they'd be struggling. And Tennessee, Josh Heupel, his personality is perfect for a coach who runs an up-tempo offense, Mark.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's a very laid-back guy. Of course, the video I sent you, from Twitter this week was, he obviously has passion and intensity, or he wouldn't be where he's at.
Yeah.
But, he seems like he's pretty calm on the sidelines, and I think he just wants people to execute. If you notice, when the quarterback doesn't execute, he immediately has a discussion with them. He doesn't berate them, but he's teaching them, because he wants that quarterback to be him on the field. I mean, because the guy is a genius at calling things on the fly, or changing plans and or plays, and having you got to have a quarterback that can really read his mind and respond. And he's even said that. But that Twitter thing I sent you this week was, he said, a few choice words, but it's like, don't look at the damn scoreboard, get out there and let's take this thing and win. And they did. I mean, a lot of teams will slack off and, not continue to kind of push hard. But I think he was, pretty excited the fact that the starters came out in the second half and continued to put points on the board. And it wasn't running up the score. It's just, it's the first game and people got to get experience. You got to, see what you have when you lose players. But I'm pretty excited about what we're going to be able to do up there. Again, we have a pretty potent offense, and I think that gives us a really good chance to win.
Well, you just made a comment, and I'll say this: some coaches are great at designing plays, drawing them up in the coaches' meetings. Others are brilliant and adept at calling plays. And then there are fewer coaches who can do both, draw up the plays and know when to call them. You talk to any football player, they'll tell you coaches today are seeing ghosts. They don't let people to practice for the most part, except for Lane Kiffin. But it doesn't matter what they're doing in practice. You don't know when they're going to call that particular play in a game. And you also have to self-scout and look at yourself to pick up tendencies. You talk to some people, they're watching you play, and they can tell when the center taps, or raises his left heel. Every time that happens, it's going to be a running play or a passing play if the right tackle kicks his leg out to the right. There's things that you got to be, and that's on the coaches. But you know what? I think football, the game, when fans could go to the games, it didn't matter. I mean, I'm talking about going to the practices and all. We're probably going to get back to that because who owns college football? The fans do. Jimmy, jump in here with Mark Hamm, Rocky Top, Tennessee Tailgate Report. And Mark, sounds like you're somewhere having a good breakfast, like a meat and 3 or maybe an M16, a meat and 16. Is that it?
Well, hopefully it's not too loud in the background. Actually, I'm in Nashville today.
No, it's fun. You could barely hear it.
Okay.
No, it's fine.
Oh, okay. No, it's I'm kind of up here in the corner, but no, I'm in Nashville. Had meetings here, so I'm here today and head back to Knoxville. But yeah, I mean, up here for a few days and head back, but trying to get back up there and hopefully we can figure out how we're going to get a win. I was talking to a friend of mine last night about going down to LSU, and we're like, well, we just need to find an airplane or two. Maybe Rob, you have one, or maybe we can ride with Smokey. But you got to get down to Baton Rouge.
Yeah, God, you think about that game. I mean, you got Pitt and then Akron, then Florida, Akron and Florida and Knoxville, a bye, and then to Baton Rouge. So it's going to be interesting. Jimmy, look, you're looking at this Pitt-Tennessee matchup. You got a lot of orange in you growing up over in Clinton in the shadows of Neyland Stadium. You like Tennessee's chances? And talk about some potential matchups with Mark and me.
Yeah, I do, but I wanted to ease Mark's mind when he mentioned Akron, considering the Zips beat St. Francis in overtime last week. I think the Vols are going to be able to bounce back okay after that Pittsburgh game.
Yeah,
but
I do too.
but I got to tell you, this is a very interesting matchup because I think with Keaton Slovis showing that he was ready to play from the opening kickoff last week against West Virginia, Tennessee media observers have shown some concern about their secondary and their corners in particular, and this should provide a good test to see how far they've come along. And I think Pittsburgh, it helped them to have such a competitive game against West Virginia. As a matter of fact, West Virginia really should have won the game, but that's a good sign that Pittsburgh found a way to win it, in a game in which, they didn't play great, but they battled and hung in there. And I'm sure that's going to be their goal against Tennessee. And I can also look at Pat Narduzzi, who is a defensive coordinator. I can see him getting involved maybe in the defensive game plan and try to put in some new things since it's only week 2 to maybe try to confuse Hendon Hooker. I don't know how successful that's going to be, but you certainly can't keep running the same stuff that your opponent's seen on tape. So that's going to be a really interesting matchup. But, yeah, I think Tennessee's offense is just at a level where I don't think Pittsburgh's going to be able to contain them. And, I think for Pitt to win, they would definitely have to score in the low to mid 30s at a minimum. So I really like Tennessee's chances here to be a road environment. And you guys talk about the band not being able to get prime seating. Well, Texas did the same thing with Alabama. and Alabama's band isn't going because they were relegated to the upper deck. And this is a story for Frank Duffy. He'll tell you that 2019 LSU visit to Texas included the fact that air conditioning was not available in the visitors' locker room. And that will never be forgotten at LSU. So there's always some obstacles to playing on the road many times, no matter what conference you're playing against and where that location is.
Yeah. Hey, Mark, all that being said, and he's right. Tennessee, they're going to need their fans. Tennessee travels really well. I want your thoughts. Defense travels too. If you got a good one, it'll travel with you. Size up this defense on a 1 to 5, 1 being hapless, 5 being elite. Where do you rank them?
Our current defense, how do I rank us on a 1 to 5?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I've seen enough. I don't know that I have enough history right now with just the one game. I mean, last year it was our Achilles heel. This year, I think we're much better because we're deeper and we have pretty much juniors and seniors across the board versus first and second string. And I think, that means a lot. I don't know. I don't know what to think. So I'm going to give us after last year, I'm going to say 3.5 to 4. But again, I think we'll know a lot more after Pitt and when we play somebody that's really got some offense. What
about Jeremy Banks? What all he's been through at Tennessee? His story is interesting. But you're right; they've got the experience. Do they have the leadership to go with that experience? I mean, you've got to have those alpha males in the locker room that basically tell people, if you're not out there to win, let's replace you.
Yeah, I think so. I think Banks is probably one of them. I guess he's a senior this year.
7th year senior, I think.
Yeah, he's been there about 20 years. He's a senior. He's from Memphis, and hey, my heart and condolences out to the city of Memphis, and all the things that have been going on there. But I think Banks is a guy that he's a gamer. I mean, he played running back. He's played linebacker. And, he's one of those guys that he just flies around the field and he's always there and, making tackles. And I think he's probably the leader, obviously back there, in the linebacking core and probably across the board. But, we don't have an Al Wilson, like we used to have, but those things happen over time though.
Well, looking at it, we're about to take a break. Just the whole Tennessee mindset is we're going to score a lot of points. And we're going to play defense good enough. But I think people are discounting all those juniors and seniors on that Tennessee team. You go through what they've been through, Jeremy Pruitt and his exit, a lot of the coaches that brought them in, they're all gone. Okay. And now you've got Tennessee, I think, is the biggest threat in the SEC East to Georgia. Now, Florida, things are great down there in the swamp right now. They got the win over Utah, but again, a long way to go. And that game is in Knoxville. And I think Tennessee, the team's focused on Pitt. But if you're a Tennessee fan, you're just licking your chops for the Florida game coming up in a few weeks. So we're going to talk more Tennessee football right after this on Sidelines.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
Look, when you look at this Tennessee depth chart, Mark, 11 of the 12 first-team guys, counting the punter on defense, because he counts. It's about a third of every game. 11 of the 12 are either juniors or seniors. And there's some talent on there. Jeremy Pruitt, he could recruit, and he could develop players. Whatever you want to say about him, he'll resurface somewhere. He's too good of a coach. I don't know. Bill Belichick got a lot of grief for the signals, stealing signals and supposedly spying on practices and everything, and he's still there. But he ain't the same coach without Tom Brady. That's the thing about it. But all right, so Mark, you look at Pittsburgh, and you think about last year. They came in, they got the win. They won 11 games. They played Michigan State in the Peach Bowl last year in the New Year's Six game. Their program is going to want this game really desperately because it validates them that, hey, they went on the road last year and won. That was big, and we did it again. Is Tennessee – I know this is crazy. They're not looking ahead to Akron. They better not be looking ahead to Florida. Are they dialed in? I mean, do you get that impression? I listened to some of all calls last night with Bob Kessling. Josh Heupel, very easygoing. He's very smart. He also knows that game won't be played till Saturday. They're not playing it too early, are they?
No, I don't think so. I think I don't know if it's a 3:30 kick. I'm not sure what time it is actually, but
it's 3:30 Eastern your time.
Yeah,
2:30 over here west of the Tennessee River.
But yeah, I think if you look at it, when you look at Josh Heupel, he relates to his players, and I think they believe in him, and they like the fact that he doesn't get too overly, he's Coach Hype, but he doesn't get too overly hyped, But if you look at it again, just in the locker room, on Twitter, I mean, he was pretty adamant about it, and he, wasn't yelling like whoever would yell in the locker room, but he was very direct and said to the players, don't look at the scoreboard. Let's go out there and hit sweat, strain, and give it your all. So I think his players enjoy playing for him. Because when you look at the players, if you look at their body language, I can tell you that's one thing you may not be able to see on TV is if you look at the body language. And when Pruitt was there and some of the other coaches, I mean, all the players were thinking like, man, when can I get out of here and go to the fraternity house and have a party? These guys on the sidelines are rooting for each other. They're excited. They're it's just a complete different body language. And I think whether it's in sports or business or whatever it may be, if it's a good organization, leadership starts at the top, and you don't have to come out and demand things, but you do as a coach. But it's really just leading by example. And he's a guy that I think finished second in the Heisman Trophy, and he's been there, and he's been there. He knows what it's like. So it's almost like I think he even played the national championship. So he
did.
It's almost like he doesn't get rattled. He's just kind of like, all right, next play, let's go do it. And I think the players don't feel like it's life and death. And when you watch them play, they play pretty loose. They don't play as if, it's, we got to get this play or, the world's going to end. It's almost like, all right, well, we'll get it next series because we're going to put up some points. It's just a different attitude, a complete different attitude than what I saw with Pruitt.
Yeah, and you gauge the temperature of the Tennessee fan base. Jimmy knows it well growing up there in Knoxville, and I think I know Tennessee fans pretty well. They've lost 15 in a row to Alabama. They've lost 15 of the last 16 to Florida. And, I think 7 of the last 8 to Auburn. They don't play Auburn every year. Georgia, they've had a few wins in that last 15, 16 years, but not many. What has to happen this year for the Tennessee fan base to get so happy that they're wearing orange and white striped overalls to the games and coonskin hats and just going crazy? What's a magic win of those big ones? Florida, Georgia, Alabama. Which one? I mean, I keep saying this, but which one? Or they got to win to get Tennessee fans to feeling like we know we are back. We don't think we are. We know we are.
I think we get Pitt's ranked, and I think we're actually favored to win that game. I saw something the other day about their coach saying he's the underdog at home. I think if we win on the road there, that's going to give these guys a lot of confidence. Not that they don't need it, but it's going to give them a lot of confidence. But I think out of all those things, if you really look at it, we got to get over the hump with Florida. I mean, you think about Alabama and Georgia; they're at a different level. I mean, they're elite, they're champions. They've been winning the national championship. So, if we could get past one down in Athens, and I'm still going to say, even though might be eating crow after watching Stetson Bennett come out like a Heisman candidate on Saturday, so I may have to reevaluate you may not want me on the show. I don't know.
You can't back down, man. Jimmy, we're holding him to it.
We're getting a win, though. I'm going to say it. We're going to get a win. Because, Bo Nix couldn't even start at Auburn, so they were playing the Ducks that, never have a defense. And sorry gets sorry, but, he couldn't start at your alma mater there. I mean, I don't see how he was starting at Oregon, but I think we got to get plus Florida. I think that's where you kind of started. They're middle of the pack. And if we beat them, we go from, middle of the pack to maybe it's Georgia then us, not Georgia then Florida. If we can unseat them, and then then I think with a couple more years of recruiting, then we start being able to compete. Hopefully, with Georgia.
Yeah, and I don't say that Georgia and Alabama are elite, and not think that you can't be there too. That's one thing, because again, it's a different set of circumstances every Saturday. Jimmy, that as well, and you do, Mark. The matchups on game day, that's all that matters. You can look at matchups, but then on game day, somebody may be sore. Again, girlfriend may have dumped them right before kickoff. They may have a big econ test or finance test Monday morning. A lot of things get in their mind, but Heupel just seems so even-keeled that his players are taking on his personality. So Tennessee, until they lose a game, is going undefeated. That's how you got to look at it. Jimmy, jump in here. We got a few more minutes with Mark Hamm, Rocky Top Tennessee Tailgate Report. Thanks to everybody listening all over the web, sidelines.live, 680thefan.com, and Kicks 96.3 in Alexander City, Lake Martin, Central Alabama, the Radio Alabama group. Great folks, Lee Perryman and the team.
Well, I would like to correct the record that Bo Nix did start for 2.5 years until he got injured last year. Now, he got pulled every once in a while, but he did start for a major portion of his career at Auburn.
That's true. You're right. He did start, but he did lose his job, I think, the last year or so, and ended up transferring out.
Well,
yeah. And he's starting again at a new program.
I know.
Yeah, and he's 0-4 against Georgia.
But he put up 3 points. They scored like 3 points. I mean,
Yeah, and I can think of a few teams that have been 0-4 against Georgia, though, in fairness. But anyway, talking about Heupel, he really fits all the intangibles that you need in a coach at a place like Tennessee, because he actually was the Oklahoma's quarterback when they upset Florida State to win the national championship in Stoops' second year there. And also, I think another a thing that people don't realize about him is that he wasn't one of those guys that was at Oklahoma the whole time. He transferred from a junior college. His dad coached at the junior college Division III level, so he's aware of that transition and what it's like for a player, and that he's been around smaller programs. So I think he has that humble aspect to him, and it allows him to communicate and relate to players from all different backgrounds. And I think his temperament is a really good mix. I think he's sometimes feisty with the media, but in a good way. And yet you can see that he comes across as a guy that can give constructive criticism to players, but at the same time also encourage them when they're starting to catch on with what the staff is trying to teach them and so forth. So, I mean, I think Tennessee just, really, hit a home run here, and they were very fortunate that Danny White was available as AD, as was Heupel, and he was able to snatch him up and it's been a great development for Tennessee. But I think coming into this game, I think Tennessee just has to focus on what they need to do. They realize that Pitt is, they're a good team. They're going to be tough to beat at home. But I think Tennessee is going to come in there with this idea that we have a score to settle from last year. We kind of lost under controversial circumstances at the end there, had a chance to win, didn't get it done, and we want to even the score here.
Mark, that's a great take. And I hope Jimmy's right. I mean, I'm picking Tennessee to win, Mark. We're about out of time for this segment, but got Bo Carter on with us out in Dallas talking some Big 12 and SEC and TV contracts. But, Mark, give us a score. Give us a prediction. And, hey, you're not going to get them all right, but just get them mostly right.
Top of my head, I say 45-38 Tennessee.
Very similar to last year. Okay. All right. That'll be good. Mark, have a good meeting in Nashville. I'll talk to you here later today. We got to get the Crocker on next time.
We do need to get him on.
One-eyed swine hall pass, but we'll be doing that here soon.
And let me leave you with this. You know, we're talking about hunting this week, and you talk about the orange jumpsuits, but and I think I've told you the story. The greatest thing about the orange jumpsuit is you can go to the football game on Saturday and wear it. You can hunt on Sunday, deer hunt in it, and on Monday you can go pick up trash. So go Vols.
Hey, I like that. Hey, I think about a lot of my friends, those orange and white overalls and the checkered orange and white overalls. They're going to make a comeback. So anyway, Mark, great stuff as always. Be careful.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it. All right, let's switch gears. Head out to the Lone Star State, Dallas, Fort Worth, DFW. I got to say it. The Metroplex, Bo, I mean, is that not one of the most annoying terms? The Metroplex. And that's what I always call Brinkley and Wheatley, Arkansas, combined population of 3,872. Yahoo! Well, welcome to Sidelines, man. We're having fun. Jimmy Hodge here with me. I'm at Red River Ford Toyota over in Wynne, Arkansas. They're open Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m., 6 p.m. I drove one of those electric trucks yesterday. Justin Wynn, the general manager, got me to check it out. It was like flying in a jet. It's interesting. I mean, you gotta have a charger, but if you just want you a truck to tool around town in, it's a great buy. It's called the Ford Lightning. I've got an F-150. Gas her up, boys. Now, Mr. Tripp, he drives a diesel, but they got them all. RedRiverFordToyota.com. They deliver anywhere. Check them out on the website. Let them know that you heard about it on Sidelines. Bo, got to ask you real quick, what is going on? I heard Franz Beard, GatorBaitMedia.com, talking with Buddy Martin on his show Monday night. New TV deals with the SEC. Again, this thing could be bigger than what they have in the Big Ten. Hold on, we got Slim Pickens on here, wants to ask you a question, Bo. Remember, what in the wide world is going on here? God dog, Bo. I know you're from Sheffield, Alabama. We got a lot of listeners down in Alabama. Kicks 96.3, Lake Martin, Alex City. Now, Alexander City, but everybody calls it Alex City. But tell us what's going on, man, because I know Slim Pickens wants to know. Artemis Powell, Billy Powell, Levon Helm, they're all asking.
Hey, and Bubba Gilliam, the old guy that was in Blazing Saddles with him, lives out here. We see him at a lot of he plays golf 6 days a week.
Oh, Jimmy, do you remember that guy?
Sorry. Great guy. Always those lines are off, not for a family program, but
yes. But we're experiencing technical difficulties. Play the old organ music in the background. Powell. Hey, Powell. Go ahead, Mildred. Bo.
No, Rob, that's a great question. ESPN, I don't know, you can't say embarrassed or whatever, but they did get left out of the Big Ten deal. So they're doing everything they can to really they've got money, they've got inventory, they've got time, and they love to go ahead and ramp up that SEC deal. I know the Big Ten, you and I discussed this earlier, was going to have pretty much got football all day, 11 Central, 3:30 Central, and 7:30 Central, just back-to-back games. And I know the Big Ten commissioners said they really want to strengthen the non-conference schedule. Stop playing all the Mid-American Conference teams 5 times a year or whatever. Yeah, right. So yeah, the ESPN's got some big bucks to give the SEC.
Well, look, I mean, you sit there and you say, the Big Ten's deal, if it's 1.5 billion, and Jimmy's right, and they got 75% of the TV sets in their geographical footprint. The SEC goes in also to the geographical footprint of the Big Ten and broadcast its games. Who's got the better product? Let's go back the last 50 years. SEC versus Big Ten for national championships. Big Ten, 2.5. SEC, 19. For those of you in East Tennessee that are listening, that's one less than 20.
That's true. That's true. I mean, it's just success. A lot of people tune in just out of curiosity to watch the brand of SEC football because it's so good. And, you're going to be watching either maybe 1, 2, or in the expanded deal, you might even be watching as many as 4 college football playoff teams in the SEC every week. So it's a great product. The fans love it. The tradition's fantastic. And again, we talked about this earlier too, Rob. It's a fun deal in the Big Ten, but it's life or death in the SEC. Honestly,
it is. All right, look real quick. We're going to go to a break in about 1:15. Let's get started. Big 12. When are we going to see some move? As Jack Crystal would say at Scott Field, Starkville, Mississippi, when Mississippi State was in a SEC contest. There's movement in the aisles here in Scott Field and Starkville, Mississippi. Bulldogs, John Carrero. John, what's going on? Well, Jack, Mississippi State just having a hard time here against this Alabama offensive line. All right, Bulldogs are 3rd and 2 at line of scrimmage this beautiful sunny day. Our visitors from Tuscaloosa, a mere 82 miles away, have made the visit to Starkville. But anyway, I've had too much coffee this morning. But when are we going to see some movement? Arizona State. We've talked about this. Jimmy's going to get back in with us after the break and talk about it, but something's got to happen soon.
Yeah, very quickly. Those two for sure. Colorado maybe. Utah's been in the mix because of BYU and Utah area out there. But I think right now they're concentrating on the TV contract, and they're really the new commissioner, Brett Yormark, is an expert on digital media. So I think he's really pushing to get that part of the contract done.
All right, hold those thoughts. We're going to come back. Rob Brown, Jimmy Hodge, Bo Carter, talking more college football on Sidelines. Right back.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Brown back with Bo Carter, Jimmy Hodge. And Bo, you said something before we went to the break. Utah possibly coming in to the Big 12. They hadn't been in the Pac-12 that long. Now, Utah and BYU, what are they? Who sponsors that bowl game? That big rival? Dr. Pepper?
Yeah, probably. No caffeine.
Yeah, that's right. Zero, Coke Zero or Dr. Pepper.
Yes, that's right. That's a good one.
But I mean, you've been out to Utah. It's where Jim Swarthout lives. And Harvey Poon, he's a Comanche Indian. Remember him in Fletch. But I think about this, the excitement. They love their football in Utah. You got that built-in audience with BYU. Again, Jimmy, jump into this. I think football matters, and you need it to be good all over the country. and I'm telling you, those folks in Utah, they are passionate. I mean,
yeah, I mean, I think it's a very interesting dynamic. However, right now, Utah's gotten themselves on a nice roll in the Pac-12. They were in the Rose Bowl last year, played well offensively against Ohio State. Defensively was another story, but still they got that type of exposure that you dream of having. And then they, played just a slugfest in Gainesville that obviously could have gone either way, and unfortunately they made a mistake at the end. So they're really getting more exposure, I think, than at any time in their football history. So they feel kind of good about things. And I know, Bo, that yesterday Brett Yormark made some waves during his visit to Cincinnati. He's in the process of visiting all of the new Big 12 schools, or actually visiting all of them in total.
Mm-hmm.
And he said yesterday that he really wanted to expand the league out west, and I'm sure that went over great with George Kliavkoff. But
he's hiding underground.
Hey, man, that poor guy's just getting arrows from everywhere, just trying to keep his league intact. But I think that was just a statement that, between the lines, I interpreted as meaning that I really think their number one target is getting that Arizona State duo in their camp and getting that Phoenix TV market. And I think they're ripe for it, because I think they would be a great fit for the Big 12 to get a connection with the Texas recruiting market, and then have a chance also to be competitive in the Big 12. And as far as Utah goes, I think they're just in a wait and see mode, because everything, I think, is riding on Notre Dame. If they make that decision within the next couple of years on what their long-term goal is, either to stay independent, to join the Big Ten, or join the SEC, that's when things are really going to shake out. Because if Notre Dame decides to stay independent, I think that's when the Big Ten makes the move to take Stanford, Cal, Oregon, and Washington, and then the Big 12 kind of makes their move.
Bo, along those lines, what do you think will happen?
Jimmy had some great points there. Utah again is kind of become a powerhouse in the Pac-10, Pac-12.
Yeah.
They're going to be down to. And another element too, guys, is that there are a lot of shaking out now with the contracts coming down, that the Texas and Oklahoma may go ahead and join the SEC early, possibly 24, maybe, instead of maybe just 1 year, possibly two, because the Big 12's got a big challenge, so to speak. They're in the 23 season. They're going to have a 14-team conference, so they've got to figure out if they're going to divisions. They're going to who's going to play which teams. Obviously, they can't play a round robin in that. So you got a bunch of side factors that could determine all this too.
Hey, Bo, I'm also hearing that ESPN could very well be in the process of helping Texas and Oklahoma with pay that exit fee in return to the network giving the Big 12 increased exposure in a new TV package, which would satisfy, I think, what the Big 12 would like to have. I don't think ESPN is heartbroken over that. It is as heartbroken over dropping out of the Big 10 negotiations as everybody thinks, because I really feel that it gives them more options to expose their network throughout the Big 12 and the Pac-12, and just allow them to have coast-to-coast coverage.
I agree with that. Bo, I got to ask you a question. You get into the Phoenix market with Arizona and Arizona State, you're not that far from Southern California. The next question, part two. We all saw that photograph. I mean, and It's eerie. It's an eerie photograph of that crowd of the UCLA game last Saturday. It was on Twitter, and it said, the Big Ten is so excited about getting into the LA TV market, Southern Cal and UCLA. And Jimmy claims there probably were 24,000 tickets sold. I'm not sure if there were 7,500 people in the Rose Bowl. How do you fix stupid?
That's pardon me. It's been an ongoing problem. I think, again, announced crowds or whatever, the Pac-12's attendance in football has been dropping for a number of years. And I don't know. So someone told me there's so much to do in Los Angeles. I guess you can go to Grumman's Chinese Theater or whatever, but go take the Beverly Hills tour. But
there you go.
They don't seem to be engaging their young alumni like the SEC has done, for years. The SEC just keeps bringing in generation, and Big 12 for that matter, the Big 10. And I don't know whether, not to blame Larry Scott, who's been the scapegoat for a lot of the former commissioner of the Pac-12, but pardon me, they've really had some, I don't know, in football, basketball's come back a little bit. Remember, they really hit the skids there after UCLA's dominance in the 60s and 70s, but football has just been on kind of a big slide, especially with USC's program falling off.
Yeah, we talked to our friend Rick Neuheisel, Rose Bowl MVP at UCLA, and now on Sirius XM Daily Show, The Full Ride, and CBS college football coverage. And I'm like, make him, he's an attorney. He'd be a great college football commissioner. Put you on the staff. But you got to save college football around the country. That's what we got to be thinking about. I don't want to see a whole part of the country just have no college football, but they got a lot of distractions in California. I understand that. The Bay Area, Stanford and Cal, they have their moments of success. Southern Cal with Lincoln Riley. I watched a program on Twitter or whatever with Lincoln Riley, and there were 3 other people interviewing him as like a weekly coaches show or something. Somebody who dresses these guys, man, they're wearing clam diggers, these pants that come down to about your ankle with no socks. Good God, my wife doesn't wear stuff like that. Are you kidding me? That's the problem. Lincoln Riley went, he got paid a lot of money, but he looked around the corner and saw this big freight train, man, with Boxcar Willie. Whoa, SEC coming right at him. He didn't want any part of it. Okay. And whoa, I don't know what that was.
No, that was a clock going off my house. Sorry.
I thought maybe it was the doorbell, Uncle Jed. He goes, I don't know, but every time them chimes start to ring and somebody comes through the front door.
Yeah, that's right.
But let's keep moving along. Washington and Oregon. Okay, now what about them? Seattle? Seattle, that's a huge TV market, big tech. Oregon, you've got Phil Knight, who's in his 80s now. His legacy, what's it going to be? All the money that he's invested with the Nike fortune to Oregon, and he's got schools all over the country, all over the world that use and wear Nike apparel. You think he's going to do something? There's like, again, George Kliavkoff he's hiding. He's kind of like Colonel Tom after Elvis was gone. Everybody went after him. Like it's not going to end well if they don't put up a fight. Bo, you understand all the things that go on behind the scenes, but how did they? Of course, Larry Scott was a unmitigated disaster for 12, but for 12 years, and then they pay $8 million a year to rent the Pac-12 headquarters from some ridiculously overpriced real estate in San Francisco. Think about the SEC office there in Birmingham. You know what the lease is? $1, Mortimer, pay up. $1 a year they pay to lease that space in downtown Birmingham. Is there a better football city in America than Birmingham? No, there's not.
No, you're right. They're in fact, I think at times they're talking about the Pac-12 office going virtual. They'll all work out of their homes and then go to meetings. Quarterly, regular meetings. And another element, Rob, that sort of people have mentioned, Jimmy, about this, Governor Gavin Newsom, technically, I think, is the chair of the University of California system. He's actually over the board of trust or whatever. So
yes,
he could still, of course, Berkeley's in there, UCLA's in there, University of California, Los Angeles, and he could put a little fly in the ointment at some point. I don't think he will, but I mean, he could make life tough for UCLA if he wanted to, I guess.
Wasn't he related to the captain of the Titanic?
Probably so.
Jimmy, can you back me up on that one?
Hey, Bo, let me tell you something. The boy toy does not want to mess with the head of the University of California system, Michael Sherman.
Yes,
he made Urban Meyer back down. That Zach Taylor situation. So I don't think that's in any kind of danger. But again, I blame this Pac-12 fiasco largely on the presidents. They should have made a move on Larry Scott 5 years ago. And I think Leofkoff was a really smart choice. I mean, he's very skilled in network negotiations. He founded the Hulu streaming service. He's got a very background. And I think had he had 2 or 3 more years to work with, in other words, if he would have been able to start in 2017 or 18, that UCLA and USC would not have left the Pac-12. But it is what it is, and he's got to deal with it. But I wouldn't count him out. But at the same time, he's doing a lot of work behind the scenes. I can promise you that. He's got a plan B in case those 4 schools I mentioned earlier, Washington, Oregon, Stanford, and Cal, are picked off by the Big Ten. He's going to have a plan in place. But if that does happen, that really makes it interesting. Plus the fact if Arizona and Arizona State end up in the Big 12, which I think will happen, you've got to wonder about what the Pac-12's future is as a Power 5 conference.
Bo, I got a question for you. It's a text that came in from John Blutarski, wanting to say, and he says, "Why can't we send John Bluto? Yeah, why can't we send the equivalent of football missionaries out into Pac-12 country to evangelize and preach the gospel of college football and get these people back in the stands and get them out of getting facials and laying around and doing nothing?" And I agree with that. You've got to evangelize. What's the theme of Sidelines? Thank you, Maury Gaston, John Hearn, Robert Durham, history, traditions, and heroes. When I was in college, Bo, at Auburn, we had to know verbatim, word for word, the alma mater of Auburn. On the rolling plains of Dixie, neath its sunny skies, proudly stands our alma mater, banners high. We had no hesitation. We had to know everything about everybody in the Sigma Nu house, their name, their hometown, their dog's name, their major, anything. And so everybody knew everybody. Jimmy, you're right about a lot of the kids today don't know the tradition. Alabama, they will know the tradition of Texas when they go there. But Bo, as smart as you are, we got to get you on the football roundtable this weekend. So I'm calling you today about that. Somebody needs to do it. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. We got to save. I don't want to see the Pac-12, maybe California fall off, but not the Pac-12. I want to see college football make a comeback. You got a couple of minutes. Give us your game plan, Bo Carter.
Yeah. You're right. Get Father Sarah out there in the missions. Bring the mission church and put them next to the football stadiums.
Yeah. Like the Mormons do. Get people on mountain bikes, white shirts, black clip-on ties, and some birth control glasses, and go for it.
That's right. Have the fight songs of the Pac-12 schools playing on a CD player on the bikes or whatever.
I mean, I'm telling you, we need to do it.
Yeah. We were talking about it. Again, they did not engage their young alumni, and a lot of there's a lot of tech movement, as you know, Silicon Valley or whatever out there in California, and it's just there's so many distractions, so to speak, or whatever. And again, part of y'all both hit the nail on the head. Larry Scott kind of watched the thing disintegrate under him, and then also again, and sorry to be repeating myself, but USC and UCLA were the bell cows out there, and they've really just they started yo-yoing up and down a little bit and didn't keep those winning traditions going. And of course, USC got really slugged badly, during the probation deal there, and losing the Heisman Trophy, et cetera. But you gotta, like SMU and everybody else, you got to make a comeback.
Yeah, and look, we're out of time for this show. Hey, go out and help somebody with the expectation to get nothing in return. Most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. And look, take people to football games, young people. If you ain't going, give your tickets to somebody. Jimmy's right. We ought to start a national network. Get the tickets in the hands. Somebody that doesn't have the money to go, you send them to the game. That can change their lives. Bobby Humphrey always tells stories about selling Cokes at Legion Field. Look what that did for him. And he grew up going to those games. We need to get that kind of fervor back. And it's going to happen. Bo, tell people real quick how they can follow you.
Oh, yeah. Just the Texas Sports Daily on Facebook, sports page dfw.com on weekly columns. Also, footballfoundation.org. We have a weekly notes column, newsletter we do, and we'd love to have you join.
Hey, look, what you do matters. What Jimmy was saying today makes a big impact too. All of our guests, thank you so much. Have a great day, everybody. All of our listeners out there on the web, Kicks 96.3 in Central Alabama. Maury Gaston, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow. We're out of here.